Okay, let's finish off our black type completely and save it. And because these are all just different, let's see, different anchor points that I have control of, I can move them in different ways, even the little holes, and make them kind of more customized. And I can always use the pencil tool to redraw them. I've changed to 2025, but my tablet's, let's see if I can get it to respond. But I can always just draw it with my trackpad as well. So remember, you have to start on the path, and you have to end on the path. And just make it your own. There we go. Yeah, getting out of 2026. Oh, I spoke too soon. Looked like it was going to work. All right. So we have many ways to manipulate these anchor points, right? And to kind of customize our type. And remember, the reason I like the pencil tool more than using the eraser, the reason I haven't used the eraser much for any of this, is just because the eraser doesn't have that smoothing control. And I tend to be pretty shaky when I'm doing, especially with a trackpad, this kind of work. I'm just going to clean this up. And clean this up. Jeez. Got to be zen, just like doing digital inking. Got to breathe. And then if you just can't do it, you can always just use the smooth tool to average them out. Okay, so I've got that. How's my E? My E is fine. Okay, so now I've got my black type. What do I do next? I have them on different layers. You see how my horse and my T and my this are touching? I don't want that, and they don't need to. So what I'm going to do is unlock the this. Oh, never mind. I already cut that out. Yep, so I just don't want that visible. So make sure only the things you want visible are visible. And now I do not want the image behind that I traced on top of. And now I have a vector, black shaped vectors, no white, just like we've done with vectors before. Unlock the things that are visible so I can select them all. And see that there's also no stroke. If there is a stroke, you want to go to Object Path Outline the stroke. And that is my text. So I save it. File, save a copy. And I save it as an AI file. And I save it as my 2 transferable vector formats. Who can tell me what those are? Yes, SVG. That's just for my own records. That will work in Photopea and other programs. And then EPS. But notice that I have the layers turned off. I don't want visible in the vector, even though the SVG will show them anyway in the preview. And you can do save as or save a copy. None of these are loss compression formats. They're just formats that can be read by different programs. So EPS is the one that the Adobe EPS is the one that is read best by Photoshop. Now I go back to my working file in Photoshop, but I want to be sure I know where my EPS is. And I mark that purple as a vector file. And I mark the AI now with the finished text, because it's a copy. That's just my black type. Now I go to my PSD in Photoshop, and now I get to bring in, I already have my Smart Object spot illustration. Now I get to bring in my vector type, the EPS. Drag and drop it in. Beautiful. place it. I'm going to set it on top of everything. And then I am going to turn off the text blocking sketch. And then if I need to make any arrangements to the border or to the arrangement of the spot illustration, I can. I'm actually going to update my spot illustration to the one with full spectrum, which I think is here. So I'm going to drag and drop that in because I kind of like it. It's very colorful. A little extra. Put that in there instead. It comes in as a smart object. And now, yeah, basically this is all fitting on, but I think I want my border to be a little less tight on the edges. So this isn't terrible. This is acceptable. But what you don't want to have is what's called a tangency in your design. Tangency is uncomfortable touching. I always say it's like an uncle at a family reunion, right? That will help you, it will help you remember. So uncomfortable touching would be if like the top of the S was just really close to the border, right? And so how do you fix a tangency? You either pull it back or you let it go over, right? But you don't want it so near that it's distracting. So I have some options. I might take all my vector type, make a duplicate of it, and I can make it all bigger so that it's not so close to the border. Instead, it's actually breaking the border. Holding down Option and grow it. And now I have a bad tangency right there. Does that make sense? But because it's a vector, as a smart object, I can skew it and not lose any quality. And I can kind of stretch it in different ways. It's like italicizing it and break that tangency. So it goes over. And I can grow it. So if I right click and I scale, I can hold down Shift and I can stretch it a little bit. If I want it to break the border more clearly. And then there's another obvious solution, which is to change the border, right? So this is a duplicate. I'll show you kind of this option. So now if I make a duplicate of the background gray and I shrink it, I can make it a thicker border so it's more clearly breaking the edge. But you have a lot of things to kind of worry about. So now I have a tangency with the E, and I have a tangency with the corner of the O, right? So all these little issues. And I don't like it as much. So what I'm going to do is keep my original border, go back to my original type, and now maybe modify that border just a little bit to give it a little bit more space. Instead of having the type reach beyond it, just pull it away from the border a little bit by growing the border. So hopefully that all makes sense to you. This is kind of graphic design really quick. As long as you have a border, you're good, because it gives you those kind of options. All right, now I need to color the type. But before that, I can submit my black vector type. And this is how I'm going to submit it. You can submit it in various ways, and they all work. So in the sample I show you of a submission, it's shown without the spot illustration. So that would look like this. Turn that off, turn this off. That's my vector type. And then I just save that as a JPEG to the desktop, just because that saves the most memory, because this is a high resolution file. Even at 16 by 20 by 350, because it's just a black vector on white, it's only 3.3 megabytes. And we want to keep the things we post to Canvas under 5 megabytes if possible. So I can post it that way, or I can post it this way. Same thing. Save a copy. Save it as a JPEG. As long as you're showing me your vector type, your black type before coloring. And I'll save that to my folder instead of the desktop, so it doesn't overwrite. And then you post it. That's actually your first requirement for assignment 6. The text blocking sketch is optional, but to post, but I think essential to do. So requirement number 1, black vector type layout. Saved as a JPEG. Okay, let me post it. It's going to be in my assignment 6 folder. And I mark that as orange for an online format. That's the first requirement. And that kind of shows your text blocking. But it's like a budget poster. You know, it's just black, doesn't have a background, but it shows you the clean type design. And that should have a lot of the personality. This is also very similar to what might be a t-shirt design, right? But that black type is a little overwhelming to my more delicate illustration. So now we do a color version. So I'm going to turn on the background and I'm going to duplicate my black type. But let me label it so I don't get confused in my master Photoshop file. So my black type is now like the black line art for digital coloring. And now I'm going to make this my color type. And do I want to rasterize it? No. I want to color it just like we colored our vectors, our vector symbols, our logos. I double click, I open layer styles, and I'm going to first fill it with a color. And that color gray does not look great on a gray background. So I can choose a color, and I can actually choose it from my image. Right? Oh, the purple was kind of nice. So it might be as simple as that. That's a color solution, right? But that's just a color overlay. We've played a lot with full spectrum color and other things. Maybe I want it to be a gradient. So this is a very strong gradient. And I can blend the two together. And that doesn't look great on the gray background. So let's keep working. I can add an offset to it. A white offset, or maybe like a dark blue offset. Or maybe a little bit of both. So a white offset that's pretty skinny on the outside. Or maybe I split the difference and it's on the inside. Or maybe it's centered. Because I don't like how close this is to the horse. So I think I'm going to do it on the inside. And then I can do a soft edged offset if I want. Right. And all of these are the last ones I used for the last illustration I did in Photoshop. But you have full control of all of these. I like to make them a little noisier. And you can have inspiration for your type coloring, just like we had inspiration for our spot illustrations. And then a lot of you like the 3D effects. So I might play with bevel and emboss and texturing. Right? I don't like the leaf texture, that's the default. So let's change that to my favorite, which is the water texture. And then play with the scale of it, so it's just more kind of granular. Maybe about like that, and then play with the depth. There we go, nice and subtle, just like the grain of paper. And I could play with contour as well, but I don't think I want to. So all of these are just in layer styles. So contouring would give it like a three-dimensional edge. And I can play with how big that is. You just have control of a lot of these things. So I can make that really clear, right? So if Katerina was asking how do you make the lettering look like frosting, you would do it with the contouring. How much you want to build it up. And you see how that even